It's a land access special on At Your Leisure today. Hi, I'm Chad Booth. Join me and USAL's Mike Swenson as we comb the state, taking in a broad view of public land issues that affect every aspect of recreation and access. If there's one episode of AYL to watch this year, this is it. There's a lot of information coming your way on this special land use edition of At Your Leisure with guest host Mike Swenson.
At Your Leisure is next.
This week's At Your Leisure with Chad and Corby Booth is brought to you by Wasatch Marine. It's all about the network.
You are looking at a place called Muddy Creek, and it is an icon of multiple-use recreation. Not a particularly good icon if you believe that multiple use of public land should include motorized recreation, and it might be a real decent icon if you believe they shouldn't. So this show is either going to excite you or not excite you during the next half hour, depending upon which side of that barricade you fall. Hi, welcome to At Your Leisure today. I'm Chad Booth, and for this special edition, Corby's taken a week off to make room for Mike Swenson, Executive Director of USAL, or Utah Shared Access Alliance. Now, you go, okay, Las Vegas, or you live in Arizona or Colorado, what does USAL have to do with me? But this is the battleground that will set the precedent for multiple use and the way we handle public lands all over the West. And so we've invited Mike to take us to some of the places that are relevant and talk about some of the issues that affect motorized recreationists everywhere. And I guess we should just start, Mike, with the question, what is the state of land use?
Well, we've got some good things going, some very positive things going, but there's also areas where we've got some progress to make, some room to grow, if you will.
What can people do in their own respective Western states to help fuel this cause and help move things along in the right direction? What do people need to do?
Become educated in the issues. And the media, you need to read it with a careful eye. Talk to your elected officials, your representatives, about what's going on and what you might be able to do to make change. If it's difficult for you, if you don't have the time or you feel like it's just too complex maybe for you to wrap your brain around, then join an organization. Send a little money and send your name. Join them and let us, if our standards meet yours, if our views are equal to yours, join an organization that can go and speak on your behalf and get into the meat of the issues.
Well, right now it's time for us to go to this week's travel adventure, and we're going to keep with the theme of multiple access to public lands. I think you'll like it.
Don't look down. Pretty sound advice if you find yourself on a natural bridge only about 10 feet wide with a 250-foot drop on either side. If you're afraid of heights, this probably doesn't sound like a situation you'd want to find yourself in at first. But when it affords views as spectacular as these, particularly when coupled with the experience of crossing a thick red rock span, fear takes a back seat.
We're out at the Gemini Twin Bridges, one of the most beautiful trails in the Moab area. You've got these two flat-top bridges over here that I know people have been driving over since probably the late 60s. I believe it was probably Lynn Ottinger that first found these bridges and drove across them in his bus.
There's very few places I've been, and I've been around the world, that you can match this kind of scenery and this kind of beauty and mix that in with the Jeeping. It's just phenomenal.
Less than 10 miles outside of Moab, Utah, the parallel wonders of the Gemini bridges brought recreationists on 2 wheels and 4 to this monument of natural wonder for years. Bull Canyon lies far below the flat-top span of the bridges, and the sheer thickness of the rock allows for the trail to go right over the top of Gemini.
It was pretty interesting for somebody who doesn't like heights, but I did it anyhow. It was fun.
The thrill is being able to drive over that bridge. It's like jumping out of an airplane for some people, or climbing to the top of a mountain peak. For me, driving across there, the exhilaration you feel, it's great. And to be able to still do that over the bridges is something I'd like to see my kids be able to do many years from now.
That enduring dream of a family trip to Gemini by Jeep will end before it ever has a chance to begin, however. Dan Mick arrived in Moab in 1978 and has been jeeping the area ever since. He loved it so much that in 1992 he started his own tour business, Dan Mick's Guided Jeep Tours. Dan now leads visitors the world over through the diversity of Moab, a diversity that in the next few months will no longer include Gemini.
The BLM has worked on their new draft proposals, what they're going to allow us to run on and what they're not. They had 3 or 4 different proposals. None of their plans had this area still in their permit. I believe their intentions were to close this area.
To me, it's not just the Gemini bridges being closed, it's the whole aspect that somehow Jeepers are doing damage to the area, and that would just be another in a long line of places that would be off limits to us. The large majority of four-wheelers that I've met are very responsible people. They come out and bring their families and they come to enjoy this.
The final decision of which plan the BLM will choose has not been decided yet. But their reasons for considering the closure are fairly simple, paralleling their own mandate for conservation and protection.
What they want to do is keep you on the route, going over the bridges, not making tracks, driving off here and there. And as long as we stay on the route, we may be able to continue to drive over these bridges.
As club members and as four-wheelers, we have an obligation to, what we think, manage the land, and so we stay on the trails and we try to encourage everyone else to do that so that we don't destroy the other parts of the landscape and make it available for other people to come and enjoy.
The experience of jeeping the twin Gemini bridges may soon be a thing of the past, but it is just one of the marvels of Moab. Hopefully, no more of this iconic land will be lost to recreationists in the future.
This is a beautiful area. Let's respect it, keep it clean, pick up the litter along the way that you might see, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to use places like these Gemini twin bridges.
From outside Moab, Utah, I'm Stephen Heumann for AYL.
If you'd like to ride the Gemini Trail, we recommend that you do it very soon. Now, we're right now on a dirt road headed towards a state highway. No problem in a Jeep, but in an ATV, it's been a problem. Mike, would you tell us what happened with SB 181?
Hey, Senate Bill 181, if the governor signs this bill, you will be able to take your ATV, meeting certain requirements, and travel on state and county roads throughout rural Utah, and will reciprocate that privilege with other states who already have street legal ATVs.
Well, this is already a privilege that people in Arizona have, and in Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. And so now we'll be able to join that club, which is going to really change the nature of riding in between routes, which is really important, but also on what routes are available to ride. Well, stay with us. We'll be back with a very unique product review in just a minute. Welcome back to At Your Leisure, our land use special with our special co-host Mike Swenson from USAL. And we've tracked quite a bit north from Lester. Your arms tired from flying?
Yeah.
We are actually in Big Cottonwood Canyon at the Mineral Fork Trail. This is the only ATV trail actually in Salt Lake County that's currently open. The next time this comes up for an RMP on the Forest Service side, this could become subject to closure. Is that right?
Very likely, very likely.
In fact, that actually is the point of our conversation for this segment of the show, is the fact that currently there are, how many, six? Six BLM field officers that are doing their resource management plan, which will include their travel plans and will include how we can access public lands for recreation, whether you like motorized or non-motorized.
Right. It
is the time to pay attention. Now, the comment period's closed?
They are. We have 6 field offices.
Okay.
We've got Moab,
Right.
Price, Vernal, Richfield, Kanab, and Monticello, all in various phases of the planning process. However, as you mentioned, the public comment period is over in all those field offices. But there still is opportunity for people to get involved, and I would argue even more effectively than the public comment. For people out there with concerns to register those concerns and maybe affect the final outcome of the plan.
How would that work?
Well, what they can do, they can contact, there's two parties that they need to contact, and it's not the BLM directly. They need to contact their local county commissioners. Now, county commissioners and state agencies have cooperating agency status in these RMPs, meaning they can be involved at levels that the general public can't. They need to contact their county commissioners and say, I've got an issue here, a problem here, we want this, we don't want that. They also especially need to contact the governor. Not only is the state, the governor, a cooperating agency in these plans, but the governor has opportunity to do a consistency review. He has a chance to go and really get into the meat of this issue even after it's final. They need to call the governor's office and say, Governor, we want you to support our county commissioners. We want you to do what is best for us in rural Utah. Governor Huntsman has a special status, along with county commissioners, as cooperating agencies. He has involvement to a very in-depth degree, and if they will call him, he needs to advocate for you. He is your elected representative, and he needs to know what you want so that he can put that forth to the BLM.
Okay, well, there you have it. We'll have more of the land use planning special. We're going to the Firebrand, the place that really started all of this land use stuff a decade ago. We'll be there in just a minute while you take this commercial break. Well, I'll tell you what, that is a landmark in the multiple use battle. That is called Factory Butte, and this was an area that last year was an open riding area, one of the few remaining large tracts of land in Utah, but it's changed. Welcome back to At Your Leisure. It is our land use update special show. My guest co-host, Mike Swenson, returns with us from Utah Shared Access. Now, so far we've done an inventory of the RMPs, and we've talked about areas that are most likely going to be closed, and kind of for the motorized side it kind of seems like bad news, but it isn't all bad news, is it? There's some good things going on.
I think there's some tremendously good things going on. It all started here. For our organization, this was our little Pearl Harbor. It has awoken the sleeping giant in USA, all in the motorized community. And we have been taking efforts over the past year and a half to aggressively and proactively pursue our right and privilege to access public lands with our vehicles.
Just a little background for those of you who may have missed it. If the Lord ever made a good place, perfect conditions for riding a dirt bike, this is it. This is a bentonite type clay. There's no cryptobiotic soil. Hardly anything grows out here except that somewhere way over there are some
cactus.
RMPs work off of inventory. Inventory is a list of all the trails and routes that are in an area, and from there, over the last 20 years, it's been take an inventory and close a few. So we have an inventory of what might be closed, but Utah Shared Access has taken an interesting approach by creating an inventory of what's already been lost.
Cartography, the art of map-making, has been practiced longer than man has written history. Those maps charted ancient trade routes and seas, while today the same is true, including routes for recreational travel. During this long history, though, few charts have been created of routes that have been taken away or closed. Such maps wouldn't serve a purpose if the land so categorized could never be visited. A fair assessment, but one the Utah Shared Access Alliance, better known as USA All, is putting to the test as they begin compiling a map that would mark every trail, road, or route that has been restricted to off-highway travel in the state of Utah.
We have started a plan to inventory as many of the closed roads in the state as possible. And the reason that this is important is because it's taken away recreational opportunities from families. Hopefully, once it's complete, we'll be able to identify trails that were closed illegally or that could potentially be reopened.
We have made a request to all those that have supported us to help provide names of trails that have been closed in their areas. We're also making some contacts with Forest Services or other authorities out there that might know of trails that are closed that no one else would.
I'm pleased that the off-road community, frankly, has taken this on as an issue that they believe is important to be done. But it's important to grazers, it's important to oil and gas interests, and the reason for that is that grant for the construction of a highway across public lands otherwise not reserved is not diminished just because you can't see a road on top of that right-of-way. It's still a property grant given.
Those grants under RS 2477 designation, along with other lands used for generations by rural communities, have slowly been siphoned off as lawsuits and special interests have taken their toll on those who would use them for work and recreation. Little by little, like a trickle of rain that soon turns into a flood, one closed trail becomes two, then three, then finally into the thousands. No one really knows how many for sure. USAL and public land advocates are working hard to find out.
It's going to take years. It's not going to be something we get done anytime real fast. It'll literally take years because of the amount of inventory that probably is out there that we aren't even going to get to until we expand our membership and ask the questions to everybody that we can.
This could be huge. Under the National Environmental Policy Act, federal agencies are required to assess the cumulative impacts of any decision. The cumulative impacts don't just apply to the animals on the ground or the vegetation, but they need to apply to the people as well. The State Division of Parks and Recreation has a mandate to develop facilities for the use and enjoyment of off-highway vehicles. If we could find routes that were once open, that were closed for a specific purpose, that could be reopened, that helps us accomplish our mission.
Once compiled, the closed trail inventory could rival, even eclipse, the land currently open to the public. Sportsmen are invited to give information on closed trails everywhere in the state, as each small piece adds to the overall breadth of this access puzzle. Maps are there to show you where to go, but in this case, it's where you can't go that will change the face of public land access in Utah.
My heart goes out to those that are now pushing to close this land off when they get my age or have a health ailment or something, and all of a sudden they realize that there are millions of miles of country that they will never be able to see.
It may turn out that as those documented roads become more obvious, that there's going to need to be some assertion of those rights of way in order to protect the access of the public to the lands that, frankly, they own.
We look at our grandparents, hear the stories they've had, look at the things they've done. We aren't going to be able to give those to our kids or grandkids if we don't stop it.
From the trailhead to the west, I'm Joe Lee.
Well, as I understand it, Mike, the closed road inventory is still going on, right?
That's correct.
And so, again, tell us exactly how people can participate in this.
Well, right now, what we'd like people to do is go to our website. We'll have some instructions on there that'll explain what kind of information we're looking for. But in a nutshell, we are in a fact-finding mission. Send us anything you can, even if it's incomplete. Just tell us what you know about roads that you've been on at some point that are now closed, or you might not even know if they're closed. We're trying to get a comprehensive inventory of all the routes, particularly the routes that are closed here in Utah. Give us what you can. Go to our website. It'll give you the info you need.
Okay, right now we're going to shift our attention to the subject of RS 2477, and this is something that really started right here, right behind us on this road. It's called the Bird Trail, and in the late 80s, early 90s, a tiff developed between Garfield County and the federal government about who had the right to decide how to maintain this county road. And since then, RS 2477 has been a real buzzword. Really, tell us the significance of RS 2477.
You know, it is very significant for rural Utah and for the rural western United States, and the states and counties having the ability to access public lands and have rights of way across public lands.
It's our only guaranteed right of access, isn't it? It's all by permission, right?
Correct. The BLM controls the access to BLM managed land and the Forest Service on Forest Service land, but RS 2477 allows for states and counties to control public rights of way that are congressionally granted long time ago and still have the force of law. There is a bill that we would like the public to be aware of back in Washington, D.C. It is House Resolution 308, and our friends at Western Counties Alliance, along with USAL and a whole host of people, are working on this bill that would essentially take the 10th Circuit decision that was decided in Denver. That's a great thing that really says the state gets to decide what is a road and what is not a road, and it would attempt to codify that in law. It would take that and say, this is a national precedent instead of just for the 10th Circuit, just for our little area. And that is a bill that is going on that we want people to be aware of, and we would like them to get involved. Again, if they'll go to our website, that information's there, and they can contact their local representatives and really have an opportunity to make a difference.
And of the 40,000 households around that are watching this show right now, just 200 of you pick up the phone, get on the internet, just do something right now, make a huge impact.
It makes a huge difference. It does.
Okay, well, stay with us. We'll be back with more of At Your Leisure and the state of land use. When we come back, we'll have yet one more interesting topic for you, and we've got a lot of driving to do between now and there.
Closed captioning for At Your Leisure provided by State Trailer Supply in West Valley.
Welcome back to At Your Leisure. My name is David Bastian. I put a sticker on my car and I won. Now back to you, Chad.
Well, thanks, David. I'm sure you're going to enjoy your trip winning the prize. Right now, it's time for us to give away this week's prize, and that is a snowmobile package at Daniel Summit Lodge. We'll be able to take his whole family snowmobiling for a whole day. Now, Noah Gibson sent us a picture of his AYL sticker on his moped.
Sweet.
Okay, which means you don't have to have a fancy ride to win big on At Your Leisure. And he'll be on his way to Daniel Summit for a day of snowmobiling. Now, Mike, we've got to tell people about the other big event.
Yes.
Okay? No, I'm not talking about the big houseboat giveaway we have planned for the summer, but stay tuned for that. This one is called
Tunes and Dunes?
Tunes and Dunes. It's a fundraiser for Utah Shared Access. We're going to be selling burgers the whole day. We're going to be doing a raffle. We're going to be doing an auction. Yeah. We're going to even auction away my job. And the most important thing is we get you a chance to communicate. Now, tell us what's up with it.
We're going to have cameras available for you to come and sit down, and it's not scary, to sit down and get on your political soapbox, to tell your elected officials, your county commissioners, your senators, your congressmen, what matters to you about public land and why you should continue to have access to it.
So, big event, huh?
Coral Pink, April 26th, 27th. You need to be there.
Okay, and right now you need to take a look at next week's show.